Hi everyone, my name's Ryan Leonard, and I am doing a presentation on the impacts of child abuse on brain development. So, child development is very crucial during 9 months to 3 years, so the prenatal and postnatal period of pregnancy. And according to Edward Ziegler and his colleagues in a study that they've done roughly around 2014, they were able to see that drugs such as alcohol, nicotine, heroin are very effective on a child's brain development. Alcohol is associated with small head, defective joints, mental retardation, and heart defects as a baby is born. Nicotine has low birth rate and premature birth. What they mean by low birth rate is the weight of the baby is causing babies to die, so the birth rates are going down. And then premature birth, so babies are born earlier. Heroin, maternal toxemia. Does anyone have any questions about drugs and how they affect child development?
What effects do drugs have on babies during the prenatal period?
Okay. So drugs, according to Edward Ziegler and his colleagues, are very essential, or not good essential, but about essential to child development because they cause neurotoxins to be developed in during pregnancy. And as those neurotoxins are accumulating and affecting and altering the child's development, they can, come out with alterations such as mental retardation, so it affects the mental health, and then they can also have emotional and physical effects as well. So babies that are accustomed to nicotine or other various drugs can have withdrawals when they're born. Does that answer your question? Okay. So our next slide is going to be, why is this important? So this is important because maltreatment is associated with long-term effects. So according to Anne Steinbecker and Erik Erikson, Anne Steinbecker, a child development researcher, and Erik Erikson being a psychologist, and they have both written many works on this matter. They have came up to the conclusion that foster children are a big research whenever studying child development and abuse. And they came to the conclusion that behavioral, such as cognitive behaviors and language impediments, are affected when children are abused during early age, so around the 9 months to 3 years. Emotional and mental, kids who are abused during this time period are more likely to suffer with depression, anxiety, disassociation, and social behavioral problems, and PTSD and neurobiological instability. Does anyone have any questions about this?
What are the effects of the mental abuse on foster children?
So the effects of foster children and child abuse / mental abuse is that they are more prone to developing alterations in their psychopathic pathways. And by their psychopathic pathways, what I mean by this is that everyone has a psychosocial or psychopathical pathway that their brains develop as they're born. And, it creates who we are as a person. And when these are altered, things such as identity versus role confusion during adolescence, so this affects social relations and insecurity, which is a big thing in foster children. Isolation, early adulthood, emotional, physical isolation, such as depression, ego integrity versus despair, maturity, regret, and resentment. All three of these are very prone in child fosters because child fosters, primarily with sexual abuse, they're suffering with identity versus role confusion highly. 44 to 54% of the national average for foster kids. And isolation is the next big thing. It's 68% of these students. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And then, just some more details on our psychosocial slide. Abuse during early development alters a child's psychosocial pathway you know, and as I talked about, the identity versus role confusion during adolescence. But I also want to state that going back to Benjamin Fear and his constituents, they have stated in an article the impact of child abuse, potential on adaptive functioning, early identification of risk. Lengthy title, I know. They have came to the conclusion that language impediment, so as we were talking about cognitive behaviors and mental disabilities and instabilities, language impediment has been a big thing with children who are abused as children, such as slurring and stuttering. 2 minutes? Awesome. Okay, good. Does anyone have any questions about how slurring and stuttering can be a result of child abuse?
How does child abuse affect speech? Like, not only like the mental part.
Okay.
Like,
So that's actually a very good question. I actually had the same question as well when I was doing research. But as child abuse is occurring, especially during the prenatal stages, those neurotoxins that are developing and occurring as a child is being abused, those have damaging effects and implications and alterations on a child's mental stability. So, and their mental health. So as mental health is decreased, then we see a decrease in speech, which is a cognitive behavior, logical thinking, logical reasoning. And as those are altered and damaged, then a child could suffer with stuttering and speech impediment. Any more questions before we wrap up?
I love you, Ryan.
All right, thank you.